there's no reason to kill a snake just because you're scared of it or you're worried about it going in your house. Definitely being a snake lover. It's just sad that people kill them without even understanding what they are, other than their dad and their mom and their grandpa. They all did the same thing.
It's a lack of knowledge, a lack of understanding. Yeah. I think the last estimates were that if we took and just plucked out snakes, lots of people are afraid of them, get rid of them. Within 3 years, the world would be completely overrun and taken over by rodents.
Wow.
Humans wouldn't exist because rodents would have destroyed every crop, every building. These animals literally keep that in check for us.
I threw out an email to the all-staff Seacoast email list and basically gave some very unique needs that I had for guests on this podcast, including someone who could speak with some authority on snakes, especially in the low country. And so through that staff email that went out, I got you two guys. So why don't y'all tell our listeners who made the connection and then why we're here talking to you about this subject matter. And we'll let Joseph go first.
All right. So my name is Joseph Finley. I am a nurse practitioner here in Florida. And the connection would have been my brother. My brother's Justin Finley. He is a children's pastor up that way. And I guess he heard the need for information about snakes, and being that for the last 22 years, I have been keeping and breeding both native and exotic reptiles, he thought that I would be a good fit for it.
Sweet. Yeah, I think his suspicion was correct for sure. Well, it's good to have you, man. All right. How about you, Cody?
So my wife runs the little coasters during the week. And my past of snakes was, I have stopped about 10 years ago. But before that, I bred snakes and just had a lot of them, a lot of different ones, and enjoyed it, and ended up having a lot of different reptiles and all kinds of random animals, from flying squirrels to cobras, So
sweet. I would imagine that you guys could probably talk for hours.
Yeah.
I was just going to mention Cody's willpower, because once you get started in keeping reptiles, it's not easy to get out, and it's even harder to stay away from it. Like, I joke with patients, or not, I say patients because I'm a nurse practitioner, but I joke with people who buy animals from me, and I go, hey, how many do you have? And they're like, oh, this will be our second one. And I go, uh-oh, that's the breaking point. Once you have one and then two, 22 is the only next logical number when it comes to reptiles.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the reason why I got out was I had to move back to California. My mom was sick. She didn't do snakes. I was allowed to bring 5 home. So I went from about 600 to 5 of my favorite babies that I raised.
Dang.
That hurts.
So that's kind of what got me out of it. And like, I take my kids to Repticon, and we go hold everything that'll let us grab them and touch them, But yeah, it's truly like, it was a love that's just hard, because it's very different, very weird to people that are scared of them, or I don't know. I fell in love with snakes when I was a kid, picking them up in the backyard,
Yep.
So
Did your mom make you empty your pockets too when you came in the house, just in case?
Yeah. So I started putting them in my cowboy boots, and so I got.
Done that.
She'd come into my bedroom after and check my boots and see if I was playing with lizards or frogs.
That's awesome. So would y'all say, it sounds like it's kind of coming out naturally in this conversation, would y'all say that y'all are both kind of confessing that we're a type of people? There are certain people that just love snakes and reptiles and that sort of thing. Is that kind of what you're saying? Like, y'all are saying, hey, we're pretty unique here.
We're different.
Sort of, right?
Yeah.
Because a lot of the fear that comes from reptiles, a lot of the things that people are afraid of, comes from a complete lack of understanding. It's your parents were afraid of them, so you naturally follow that fear, and you don't really know why you're afraid of them. Most people, if you ask them, well, why are you afraid of these? There's really no answer. It's not something easy to pin down. Why are we afraid of this? When some of them, yes, very dangerous. Most of them, less dangerous than a hamster. Less dangerous than I've had rats bite me way worse than some snakes, and pretty large size snakes. Rat bites are horrible, and people keep rats as pets all the time.
Yeah. All right. The questions, I've got an unlimited amount, so but my job is to limit these daggum things. So I've got some questions for y'all. As far as what you just said, with the vast majority of them on a safety standpoint, most of them are harmless. Is it easy to train the eye on how to spot fairly quickly a poisonous snake from a non-poisonous? I've heard the explanations, which I want to hear again. But seriously, if I were to walk out to my front porch because my kid ran in the house and said, "Dad, there's a snake out there," is there a way that I can run out there and within 6 feet of it be like, "That's fine, son. That's not going to do anything to you. If it bit you, you'd still be fine"? Is there a way to distinguish them pretty easily without having to get super close?
Well, for South Carolina, yeah. Other than water snakes and cottonmouths, those ones look so much alike. Like, I used to pick them up whether they were a cottonmouth or a water snake, but those are the ones that are like the hardest. For at least for me, was always those two. Everything else, the heads are pretty much a dead giveaway.
And tell us the dead giveaway is because non-poisonous is a curved head?
Well, I don't go for the non-poisonous look. And poisonous isn't really the word.
Yeah, educate us.
Yeah, so it'd be venomous.
Yes.
Snakes, and it's like a diamond almost when you look at their full head from the nose to the back of the neck. You see more of a diamond or a triangle. So that's the main, when I look at a snake and I'm going to reach down and grab its tail, I'm looking at its head to see if I'm looking at a triangle or am I looking at a rounded nose. So
yeah, and pretty easy once you're taught it once. It's pretty easy to see.
That head shape plays a huge role. Now, venomous snakes and non-venomous, the non-venomous ones will try to imitate, right? So if this snake is scared, if you are swinging a shovel at it or a stick at it and it's trying to defend itself and act big and bad, they'll flare their jaw out, and it'll go from having a nice oval shaped head, and it'll flare that jaw out as wide as it can and try to look big and bad, making, like Cody said, the water moccasin or cottonmouth, Chistrodon piscivorus. It can make them more difficult to distinguish because the babies have banding, just like the brown banded water snakes that we get. And with that, you're going to rely more so on body shape and scales and things like that, which leads into something that would be more for an expert to distinguish, right? Somebody who works with animals all the time. If the snake is relaxed and calm and just kind of chilling, doing its own thing, and it has a fairly oval-shaped head, it's a good way to indicate for our snakes. Now, exotic stuff, completely different. You can get oval-shaped heads that are wildly dangerous from Africa and from India and Indonesia. However, here, we mostly have pit vipers, short of the coral snake, which is super easy to distinguish. Everybody knows the red versus yellow. The red touching yellow. If the red is surrounded by yellow bands, that'll kill a fellow, right? If the red is touching black, that's a friend of Jack. Everybody has their own variation of it, but that's how you tell the coral snake. It's the only elapid that we have in North America.
What's that mean?
Which is the species. It's a species or family of snakes that are actually in the same family as cobras. And so that's the only one we have. The rest of the dangerous ones we have here are all pit vipers. So they're going to have a pretty distinguishable, like diamond-shaped head to them, even at rest, even when they're relaxed.
And forgive me for anything that is outlandishly funny. Try to keep it together. But pit vipers, a rattlesnake is a pit viper. Water moccasin is a pit viper. So all of the venomous snakes in the low country, except for the coral snakes, are pit vipers. That's the category that you would put them into. All right, and then Cody, you said that the water snake is often confused with the cottonmouth. Did I get that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
So those ones are hard.
Yeah. So the venomous snakes in South Carolina are the very rare corals. Then you have rattlesnakes, cottonmouths, and water moccasins. And I always thought water moccasins and cottonmouths were one and the same. Okay. So am I missing diamondbacks?
So yes.
Eastern diamondbacks, pygmy rattler snakes. You guys actually have the coolest variants of the pygmy rattlesnakes on the planet. You guys get these bright red and orange. They're not all that color, but certain areas up there have the most sought after. Down here in Florida, people will pay wild money to get their hands on the red pygmy rattlesnakes that you guys have. But again, they're going to have that diamond-shaped head, and they'll have a rattle. Now, pygmies are more difficult to distinguish in the rattlesnake side because their rattle's so small. If I were to pull out my girl that I have here, you can't even barely hear. It sounds like a bee or a wasp or something like flying, like a very slight, subtle sound. The rattlesnake, everybody's heard it in videos and movies, and it's very distinguishable for the eastern diamondbacks. I think the easiest way that I found to distinguish the banded water snake versus the cottonmouth or water moccasin is the eye banding that they have. If you've ever picked up a brown water snake or a banded water snake, they're frosty. They bite, they musk everywhere, they poop all over everything, and they flare that jaw out. But specifically, water moccasins will have a dark band across their eye that runs down the side of their head. And I think that's been the most distinguishable when looking at juveniles from both species.
Yeah. That's awesome. So I'm going to try to frame this question up how I want it to come out, and you guys just tell me if you understand kind of the direction I'm heading in. But let's say that we're in the low country, and I guess I mean specifically South Carolina, and my boys are going out into the woods, and we're talking as much woods as you can get for the suburbs, but maybe a little bit dense in there. Would it make any sense? Would it be practical, good wisdom, or just irrational overthinking for me to tell my boys, "Hey, y'all watch out for venomous snakes. You know that they're in the low country, so you don't want to get bit by those things." Is that reasonable advice to say watch out for those things, or what's the point? If they're going to get you, they're going to get you.
Well, for me, like with my kids, I tell them, like, I always tell them, watch out for snakes, because right now we live in Park West, so it's suburbs and houses and a couple ponds, but we got a snake in our backyard a couple weeks back, right when it started getting warm, but it wasn't anything harmful. So we went out there and I showed them the difference of what I can. But the thing is just teaching your kids what they are. Snakes in general. We have roughly 38 snakes in South Carolina, like 38 species, and only 6 of them are venomous. So most likely if they see a snake, it's rarely going to be a venomous snake, unless they're going out hunting and going in the woods and, playing in their house is kind of how I say it. Same with how I tell my kids with sharks. This is their house. You just hanging out in it, So there's snakes everywhere. You're going to get them. I used to do a lot of removals, and I think Joseph does too, a lot of removals in houses where you in the living room, you go get it, or in the kitchen. Snakes they can be anywhere and everywhere.
Yeah.
But rarely harmful. And the meaning of saying rarely harmful is don't go poking at them or you're going to get bit.
Yeah.
Everything with a mouth bites. Everything that lives on this earth that has a mouth, that's going to be number one defense.
Yeah. And a venomous snake, if we're talking strictly science, and I don't know if it branches out into different reasons, but a venomous snake has the capacity to inject poison essentially for defense. So in other words, anytime a snake strikes at a person, for instance, their space felt threatened. And so it's like, okay, this entered my territory, so I've got to do something. That's what I do. I bite people and I inject poison. Is it a territorial thing? That's why those venomous snakes bite?
Most snake bites, so in captivity, when people keep snakes, most bites happen either during the bagging process or during feeding. Most of the time, it's an accident during feeding, or because somebody wasn't following a protocol, or it's during the bagging process when you're trying to contain the animal into something for shipping or for moving or for a storm. Down here, we get the hurricanes, we have to pack everything up just in case we have to relocate quickly. In the wild, short of stepping on one accidentally while you're walking, a snake is not going to seek you out in order to bite you. We don't get snakes that are big enough to even look at us as a prey source. So other than that, an accident where we encountered them completely unaware, both of us, I stepped on it and now it's hurting, so it's going to defend itself. A snake is only going to bite you if you're messing with it. So most bites that occur is somebody trying to show off and they're like, oh, I'll pick it up. And they reach to go get it. Or they're trying to move it without proper training or trying to kill it, usually. People will try and hit it with a stick or a machete or a hammer or something to try and euthanize the animal out of fear. And if it's a non-venomous animal, most of the time they'll successfully do that. And even if they get bit, obviously they're not going to be hurt. If it's a venomous animal, they're still going to defend themselves, but they have a much better ability to do so. Even with defense, the snakes do not always actually inject a venom. They use that primarily actually as a digestive enzyme to aid them in digesting their prey and to stop their prey from being able to take off and get away from them. So it's actually not even truly only used for defense. It's primarily used as a digestive source for them to help break down the proteins of their prey items. And then in the event of needing it, they can use it in defense. But that's where you get the term dry bite from. Even babies can control their venom, is what we found. However, the whole theory behind, babies are more dangerous than adults because adults don't always and babies have to. It's not that they can't control it. It's that we're huge, right? So I always tell my clients and people that I work with, if a giant came and ripped the roof off of the building that I'm in and tried to pick me up, I'm probably going to bite somebody, right? Like, I'm going to fight back.
Mm-hmm.
So to this small 6-inch animal, even though I'm only 5'6" with my boots on, I look giant. And so they're going to be more apt to deliver a venomous bite than an adult will, because the adult knows that, hey, if I shove 2 giant screwdrivers into this person's leg, I bet they stop. And they're more confident in their ability to defend themselves without.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Would you, and Cody, with your history of having tons of snakes and exotic reptiles, Joseph, I'm curious how you would answer this too. Are there certain types of venom and types of species where if you got bit, you would take it way more serious? Like, oh, shoot, it was that snake? We better hustle the heck to the hospital. Like, and give me some examples of different levels. Like, is there a venomous snake to where if you were handling it and it bit you, you'd be like, oh, shoot, that's going to hurt for a little while and not have to go anywhere? Give us a little bit of a range.
So I think that Joseph's going to have more on this one. Mine was like I had rattlesnakes and stuff, and then I had some cobras, and I had spitting cobra. Um, I
Brave
was
man
more worried
with the
about.
spitter.
What'd you just say,
and
Joseph?
I said brave man with the spitter. That's
Yeah.
one species I won't keep.
Yeah.
It wasn't so much of a brave man. Someone else had it. They couldn't handle it. It ended up in my snake room, and then I had it. So it wasn't something that I went after. But I'll tell you, she was one of the sweetest snakes, even out of my non-venomous. I could freehand her, pick her up, like
Wow.
so sweet. And it was, she's never struck at anyone. She just was
Wow.
just a different style, you know. To get her to spit was almost too scary to make her do it. But yeah, so the cobras were the ones that I was most worried about because it's not a venom that's always so easy to come by. Rattlesnakes, copperheads. Luckily, never been bit. Still have all my fingers. Haven't lost any nubs. So, you know, but yeah, those were the ones in my collection that I was more worried about getting bit. But now I had friends that had mambas and black mambas and stuff that I would just kind of stay on the other side of the room when they got them out. Those were one of my biggest feared snakes because of how fast they are, and their venom is not fun from what I've heard and seen.
And
so that wasn't one that I wanted to play with.
yeah, is there's no venom that is fatal for a human if they get the attention they need in time, right? Any venom can be dealt with for a human if you do it within a certain amount of time. Am I correct?
That's a him question.
So yes, we can inoculate the venom, right? We can take and stop most venoms. There are certain species that, this is kind of in relation to your previous question, there are certain species that are not considered lethal to humans, right? So I have a bush viper, Atheris squamigera, one of the first venomous snakes that most people work with when you get into this kind of hobby and field. Now, if I were to get bitten by it, if I have a previous heart condition or a previous hypercoagulopathy, meaning that I form clots, blood clots easier than other people, if I have certain outlying issues or previous medical history, it could make that snake a lethal bite for me, right? And everybody reacts differently to different venoms and biologic agents that are infused inside of them. You can have an anaphylactic reaction. Having never had exposure before, your body can reject that and throw hives and have throat swelling and facial edema and all kinds of issues regardless, right? But that can happen from a bee sting, an ant bite, a scorpion. So in theory, most of the time, that's not going to be a lethal bite. Am I going to have increased cranial pressure and probably projectile vomit for a while? Yeah. And is it going to be probably one of the worst 24 hours I've ever had? Yeah. But I'm probably not going to die. Mm-hmm. Similar to the pygmy rattlesnake that you guys have and we have down here. Those are not usually lethal, right? With or without treatment. It is one of the most painful bites on the pain scales. It's been described as one of the most painful bites you can receive. However, if we take you to the hospital and do a little bit of IV saline, you probably will make it through it. The question comes down to what's our goal of treatment when it comes to treating snake bites. With pit vipers that we have here, we are focused more so on preventing prolonged damage, right? So eastern diamondback and a water moccasin and things like that are going to cause an enormous amount of swelling, an enormous amount of pain, and they can also change the chemical structure of certain blood cells, prevent you from clotting initially so that you're bleeding from the wound and from your stomach, mouth, eyes, ears, nose, things like that, depending on how bad the bite is. And so not necessarily, even if we get the Crofab and Innovit, the anti-venom that we use, we can stop the venom from being the contributing factor. But up to 14 days after a bite, you can become hypercoagulable or better at forming clots because your body's trying to compensate for the effects of the venom previously. And you can throw a clot into your lung, kidneys, or a limb, or even your brain, and have a stroke or a heart attack or a kidney infarct. And you can have some residual effects that your body is reacting to after the fact. And that can become lethal. And that, your chicken or the egg, right? The venom was the initial cause, but it's a secondary effect that could happen later on and either start lifelong altering changes, or it could become lethal at that point. On the same scale with things like Cody was mentioning about the cobras, they have a completely different chemical makeup of their venom. All of the snakes kind of have a little bit of each of the toxins, but the composition ratio is different for each species. So a cobra has a primarily neurotoxic venom that is not going to cause the swelling and the pain and the edema type symptoms, and not necessarily usually the blood changes. What it can cause is melting of your nerves, essentially. There's a couple of fancy words I could throw in there to sound smarter, but it basically can melt your nerves and cause stroke-like symptoms for the rest of your life.
Dang.
The goal of neurotoxic antivenom isn't preservation of function. It's please don't die. Please keep breathing. We're focused on making sure that this patient makes it, because we're probably not going to be able to abate all of those symptoms regardless of how quickly we were able to initiate treatment.
Wow. Man, this is super, super interesting stuff here. So out and about, you confront a snake in the wild, and let's say you are highly suspicious of it being venomous. What are we supposed to do? Like, there's rule of thumbs out there about bears in the wild. Like with a snake, are we supposed to just get the heck out of Dodge, or be real quiet and soft and back up quietly? Is there a rule of thumb with snakes?
Honestly, it's a do as I say, not as I do in this kind of instance. And probably I bet the same goes with Cody here. My dad and me walked up on a pygmy rattlesnake, and his first question was to me, "You're not going to pick it up, are you?" If you don't mess with it, honestly, if you look at that animal and you make eye contact and you turn away for a second, I would put money that animal moves away and takes off. I do rescue calls here in Florida currently, just like Cody used to. And I get calls all the time like, "Hey, I saw a rattlesnake in my yard." And I go, "Okay, how long ago?" And they're like, 20 minutes. And I go, "Look outside." And they're like, "I don't see it." And I go, "I know, it's gone." They don't want anything to do with us. In fact, being seen for a snake is almost certain death.
So true.
They're able to defend themselves, but there are so many predators that love to eat snakes. It's actually a significant problem here in Florida. Our native population of snakes is being decimated because of all of the proliferation and building humans are doing here. And unfortunately, the animals that survive alongside us fairly well, raccoons, possums, squirrels, even squirrels will eat a snake. It's wild, but I've seen videos of ground squirrels killing and eating rattlesnakes. And those animals are living right alongside us, and they are destroying our native reptile population. So a snake does not want to be seen. They are camouflaged for a reason. They hide underneath things primarily for a reason. So if you see one and you just walk away, then they're going to walk away probably a lot quicker than you are. They want to get out of there because they don't want to be anywhere near that area now.
Yeah. All right. This is what I suspected, that now I'm at a place where I'm trying to cram as many questions as I can, and I haven't even gotten to daggum alligators and crocodiles, but I want to tell y'all. So I was in a residential neighborhood, my neighborhood here in Charleston, South Carolina, the swimming pool, sidewalks, nice grass and all of that. And so I'm walking and running a little bit with my dog, and I am in a place where I'm walking, and I look up, and there's a lady on the other side of the street, but down the sidewalk, and she keeps pointing in front of me. And so basically, I was walking with my small dog right toward, we're talking a big gator. I mean, and even someone like me who I don't have a whole lot of exposure to reptiles, and I'm not being over dramatic. My brother from southern Florida saw it when he was in town. He was just like, that is a big alligator. What would have happened if that lady wasn't there? What do you think would have happened if that lady didn't flag me? Because I think I was reading something on my phone. I'm pretty sure I was walking straight towards that gator with my dog. What do y'all think would have happened?
Well, for me, I try to pet them because they're like just big dogs, and I want to cuddle them.
You're not joking right now.
Chin.
You're not joking.
No, we went and looked at a house and to buy, and there's two baby like little 3-footers, and I'm with a realtor, and I was like, I gotta pet this little guy. So I tried to grab him, and he just ran away. Most of the time, they don't want to be any closer to you than you want to be to them. From my experience, now Florida, that's a different thing. Them gators are different down there. But out here, they don't want to be anywhere near you, just like you don't want to be anywhere near them.
So you think it would have eventually jumped in the lake because it was basically just a few feet away from where it swims a lot? Do you think it would have just turned around and kind of hopped in? I probably wouldn't even noticed it.
So
you might have heard the splash, but
it would have splashed, jumped into the water, scared the daylights out of you. And honestly, I live here in Florida, and we have a trick here in Florida for how to. It's nighttime, bedtime here. All my lights just kicked off for my animals. Everything's on a timer.
Oh, good.
So in order to find out, hey, do you think there's an alligator in the water down here? What you do is you walk up to the edge of the water, and you bend down, and you kind of touch the water and give it one of these. If your fingers are wet, there's an alligator in there. That's how we tell if there's an alligator in the water down here in Florida. They are everywhere. Most people kind of we treat them like the little like brown anoles. If anybody's ever been to Florida, we have little tiny lizards everywhere. They're like flies or mosquitoes. They're just everywhere. And that's how we view them. They're just bigger lizards. They 9 times out of 10 don't cause any trouble. They don't get anywhere they're not supposed to. They're just in the water. The only real issue comes up with them when people intervene in their life and train them, essentially. One of the reasons I don't personally, I keep spectacled caimans, Cuvier's dwarf caimans, I keep smooth-fronted caimans, but I've worked with everything from saltwater crocodiles to Cuban crocodiles, Niles, Morlets, a lot of different larger crocodile species. And most of the alligators that I've worked with, like he said, big puppy dogs. I'm of the personal, humble opinion that anybody can have a pet alligator if you have enough space for it and a little bit of knowledge on how to train them. They are very easily trainable, and they respond very well to it, so much to the point that they're boring to me, and I won't work with them anymore. I like things that give a little bit more of a challenge. I joke that if I can't shake hands with the Grim Reaper every once in a while, then what am I doing here? So I like crocodiles. They view me as a food source, an active prey source that you don't have horns, you don't have hooves or claws. That's a fruit roll-up. Let me have it. And they try to eat me. That's what I like. My caimans have a Napoleon complex. They're smaller, and so they actively try to act like bigger, more aggressive species because they need to compensate for their size, like many of us men do, who are of shorter stature. I say that as one of them.
Yeah. So you love monsters that eat you. Great.
Yes. I like things that try to eat me. If I can go out like my hero, Khaki Jesus, good old Steve Irwin, but hopefully with something a little more exciting than a stingray, rest in peace, my guy, then I'm happy with that. That's fine with me. Mm-hmm. But alligators really don't want anything to do with us either. They don't view us as a prey source. They do get quite large, but short of people fishing and routinely cleaning and gutting and feeding that animal to the point where it associates, oh, hey, wait a minute, humans with something on a string equals a food source. If that process gets started in their mind, and then grandma comes over and walks her little dog right by the water, where the gator goes, hey, wait a minute, that's a human with something on a string. That's a food source. At that point, there's a danger conflict because he's not coming after grandma, but he is coming after the alligator. But if in the process of pulling that dog into the water, grandma breaks a hip and drowns in the water, the gator may try to take advantage of that as well, even though grandma wasn't the intended source of food, right? That's really the only time that the conflict between humans and alligators becomes an issue.
Yeah. Yeah. And what would be the difference between a crocodile and an alligator, and is one of them more harmful than the other?
Firstly, that big attitude problem that crocodiles have.
Yeah. They have a different
crocodiles
vibe?
They have a much different vibe. When they look at you, it's part of the challenge and part of the excitement of working with these animals is being able to establish a bond with an apex predator that views me as nothing more than food and convince it that I'm worth more as a caretaker and it's worthwhile for it to follow my instructions and to follow my commands because it knows the rewards that come from that than it is to just try and eat me every time I'm in the cage.
And anytime it can change its mind and say, better is food.
That's the big difference, right? An alligator, accidents happen, but usually they're trying to get food from me, right? I've been bitten by pretty decent sized alligators, and most of the time it's during a feeding incident. And, well, now I have 2 broken bones in my forearm, but it was a feeding response, and we have the appropriate coverage and people backing me up to help maintain my arm from being removed completely. But at this point, the animal realizes that's not what I was after. But if I slip in a crocodile cage, the instant that my footing slips and I stumble, I go from in charge to food source, and I have to get out of there quickly. It's an instantaneous reaction. That instincts kick over really quickly. Alligators don't view us initially as a food source. So short of an accident, they're usually not going to do anything.
That's interesting.
There is minor changes to breeding season where the males become a little more territorial, right? And they may become more territorial, not necessarily towards us, but towards canoes being in the water, the paddle boards, kayaks, things that might be confused easily as a larger male moving into their territory. They could become territorial towards that. And then females, if they have a big nest nearby, all bets are off. They will defend that to the death. Yeah. No questions asked.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So we don't see a lot of these reptiles during the summer, and most people understand hibernation as a concept. But are these? And I would imagine it varies depending on what sort of animal we're talking about. But are they literally are snakes just out in the woods during the winter, burrowed, whatever word we want to use here, just kind of gets under the ground and just literally sleeps for the winter? Is that what alligators and snakes and all these reptiles are doing in the cooler months?
So we have, and I'm sure he has the same, I don't know about Florida, about here we have we called it snake hunt season, which we weren't hunting to kill. We just were hunting to pick them up and catch them and have fun. So you don't see them during the winter because they move slower. They want to stay coiled up and on as much warmth as they can. Summertime, they're active, they're fast, they're like black racers. People will be like, oh, they chased me. No, they're just really, really fast, and you came up on them, and they most likely have their nest is right there. One time, people used to tell me, oh, they chased me. No, probably walked up on its house where their babies are at, and they're just showing you that you can't come over here. So wintertime, we never went out looking for snakes because you ain't going to find any.
So they're inactive. They're not necessarily sleeping.
Yeah, because So out here, our winter is really short compared to other places. So snakes can live off eating like a meal a month when it's real cold, or a meal in 2 months. I couldn't remember exactly, but snakes in captivity got it made. It's living the high life. They get fed once, twice a week during breeding season, once during the week for the rest of the year. And that's just the regiment that I use. But like out in the wild, they have to find their food, and it's not as easy for them as everyone thinks because they're ambush predators. They aren't stalking or hunting or chasing. They wait for something to run in front of them, and they go, "Well, that looks tasty, and I'll eat that." So it's for me. I never thought that they just like go and they sleep, but they are very slow moving and not using a lot of energy during the winter time.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
how's Florida though? Because Florida's like hot all the time. Like, do you ever?
We get exactly 1 week. There's 1 week where, wow, it's kind of cold this week. And then, Christmas is next week, and it's like, oh, wow, it's 95 degrees again. Thanks, Florida. So we pretty much have active animals all year round. When it is colder, right, reptiles are not endothermic. They can't generate their own body heat. So they rely on the outside temperature for all of their energy. In order for their metabolism to be boosted, in order for them to produce energy, they're completely reliant on the external environment. That being said, in captivity, I can convince these animals to breed at any time of the year. I can convince them to eat at any time of the year because I'm the one controlling their microenvironments in each of their enclosures. In the wild, the ambient temperature determines what's going on. Same thing with the crocodilians. From usually about November down here, when the temperatures, it might be 95 during the day, but my nighttime temperatures are still getting close to 60 or so. They stop eating, and they may not eat until March or February, when temperatures consistently in the evening stay above that, and their metabolism starts to rev back up. So they can go prolonged periods. The larger the animal it can go even longer. Some species of snakes might eat a large prey source from like reticulated pythons or the really big stuff, maybe 3 or 4 times a year. Eat a really large prey item, and that's it. Most of my emerald tree boas and things are every 6 weeks, which is a month and a half. That's a long time in between. I would be a much skinnier man if I followed their diet regimen. Mm-hmm. So in the winter months when prey source, there's no animals breeding, the mammals are not doing their thing and making more babies, then the prey sources are down for smaller rodents and smaller items. There's no point in them making babies at that time. They're going to wait and breed just as it starts to warm up before the mammals start producing their first litters. And so that's when they're going to become active. Right as things start to increase in temperature and warm up, they'll be more active looking for mates, and then they'll have babies, and then they're going to be hunting to gain enough weight after their winter months of fasting, if you will, when they're less active, in order to be able to have enough reserve to survive the next winter. So we get a much more increased active period. During the summer months when it's the hottest here, our animals will be far more active. But definitely during the winter months, they're going to slow down and they're going to hunker down somewhere that is relatively stable, whether that's a burrow, under your house, inside your house, behind the water heater. They're going to find somewhere warm where they can keep safe and just kind of hunker down and wait for it.
Yeah, yeah. This has been great. I'm appreciative to wife and brother for making these connections with you guys. Snakes have it rough, man.
The rough life.
Yeah, you think about old daggum snakes. They don't have any legs, for crying out loud, and the non-venomous ones are trying to get away from us because we'll kill you just for what you are, man. You're a snake down here in the South. That's got to be like, especially for you guys, y'all got to be like, why would you kill that thing?
Yeah, everyone I work with is like, oh, I'll just shoot it or I'll just chop its head off. I'm like, well, what did it do to you?
Yeah.
like, you aggravate me all the time. I'm not just going to hex you up and ship you off in a box, you know? And I'm a true believer in, you know, we have snakes for a reason. You got king snakes that keep the rattlesnakes away. You got snakes that all snakes keep rodents out of your house. So now I eat and hunt and fish and but I don't kill anything just to kill it. That shouldn't be the way to do it. If there's a snake, if you walk away, you probably won't see it for a while, if you ever see it even again. So killing a snake just because it's a snake is not the right answer. If you want it out of your yard, there's plenty of people like Joseph that will come and grab it and take it out for you, that are trained properly, and find a better place for it. There's no reason to kill a snake just because you're scared of it or you're worried about it going in your house. So it's kind of sad. Like, definitely being a snake lover, like, it's just sad that people kill them without even understanding what they are, other than their dad and their mom and their grandpa. They all did the same thing.
Yeah,
so it's just handed down.
It's a lack of knowledge, a lack of understanding. I think the last estimates were that if we took and just plucked out snakes, lots of people are afraid of them, get rid of them. Within 3 years, the world would be completely overrun and taken over by rodents.
Wow.
Humans wouldn't exist because rodents would have destroyed every crop, every building. Rodents would have bred at a rate. I breed rodents for my animals. And I think I have about roughly 1,000 breeding rodents here at our facility. And just over the course of probably the last 2 or 3 weeks, I think I culled off for food close to 300 baby rodents in a couple of weeks, because I just did that a couple of weeks back. So the growth rate of rodents themselves is incredible. And for us to be afraid of an animal that literally keeps an overwhelming army of rodents that would destroy everything in their path. They would eat through the walls of your house. They would chew out your foundations. They would eat every crop in sight. These animals literally keep that in check for us. And yet, the moment we see it in our yard, people go, oh, I need to defend my house. I need to defend my family. And so they kill it. Meanwhile, that animal probably has been there longer than you have. It's an argument that I have with people that I go, and they go, well, I can't have this in my yard. He came in my yard. That's his problem. That's why I killed him. And I go, how long have you lived here? Oh, we moved in 5 years ago. As a 12-year-old snake, you built a house in his house. And he lived here for 5 years and never bothered you once. And then the moment you saw him, you killed him. He's been busy protecting this land for 12 years, keeping the rodents at bay, keeping back the overwhelming force of the rats you also don't want in your house.
Yeah, you should have bought him a mouse, for crying out loud. You should have taken him a mouse.
You should have taken him out for dinner. Maybe you beat up your own bodyguard. What are you doing?
Oh, man. Hey, this has been fascinating, and I appreciate it, both of y'all. It's been a long time coming, and I am very tickled that you guys gave us some of your time, and it was right. It was as interesting as I thought it was going to be. So thank y'all both. It was a very fun hour spent. I appreciate it very much.
No problem. And Cody, when you're ready to get some reptiles, give me a call. I'll get you hooked up.
Definitely.
There you go.
I think
Hey,
my wife knows your brother, so
you guys will for sure for a very long time be the only Seacoast podcast episode on snakes. I'm going to say at least for the next 5 years, y'all got this territory covered.
Let's put it on the calendar. 5 years from now, me and Cody will get back together. We'll see how many snakes he has.
Hey, I'll do it if you remember.
yeah, I'm probably going to have a few.
You've been watching Seacoast Church's Things You Won't Hear on Sunday podcast. You can now become a patron of this podcast and receive exclusive content. Your support goes towards Seacoast ministry efforts and local presence. Also, be sure to leave us a review and subscribe to this podcast so that you get these episodes as soon as they're released. All of this information can be found in the show notes. Thanks for watching.